Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our latest video content. If you're watching on LocalGov TV, be sure to visit their website to see all of the content made for you by your local governments. Alamance County is pleased to present the Alamance County Commissioners Meeting.
May 18th meeting to order, and the invocation and the pledge will be led by Commissioner Thompson.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
if we could just be quiet for a second, if you don't mind, and let me ask a little quick prayer. Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for everybody that is here tonight, because it certainly shows us how much they care about their county. I pray that we will lead through you, Lord, and we will always put our citizens first. Please be with us each and every day in such a world that has so much evil walking the ground, God. And may we always stand above that and never be part of that, Lord. May we be the ones that stand up and fight for the innocent and always stand for what's right. In your precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Say the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start the public comments, and I am going to tell you that tonight the budget is just being presented. It will be discussed and worked on June the 9th. And also, if you have signed up and 3 people are with you or 4 people are with you and they're going to say the exact same thing that you're going to stand up and say, if you could pick 3 people to speak for you and you have 3 minutes. So when the clock goes off, just finish the sentence that you're on and step aside so that everyone who signed up, even though a lot of them seem to be repeats on the problem that they want to discuss, so that everybody will have their chance to speak. The first one, that I have up is Kathy Page. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to approve the agenda first.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now we're on the public comments. Kathy Page.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Page. I live at 2300 York Road in Burlington. Well, I've been to a few meetings and almost always watch your meetings online. This is the first time I have actually spoken to the Alamance County Board of Commissioners at one of your meetings. I have believed that if we elected the right people to serve, then my interest and the best interest of the majority of our citizens would be upheld. Tonight, you will hear a budget presentation from the county manager. That budget presentation will include another tax increase. Now, I am not a no tax ever kind of citizen. You all know me, and I think you all know that to be the case. I supported last year's property tax increase. Yes, I supported last year's property tax increase. Now, I didn't support the 7 that one of you wanted, and I didn't support the 4, that another of you wanted. But I appreciated that one of you held the line at 2.5. Again, I have never been a no tax ever kind of citizen. My husband and I have been very fortunate. We might not think we should have to pay more in property tax to Alamance County, but we are able to if we do have a property tax. But many of our citizens are not able to. Please think about those citizens. Please think about the price of gas. Please think about the price of gasoline, the price of prescription medications, the all too often unattainable goal now of home ownership, especially for younger citizens. Please consider that a number of our municipalities are seriously considering increasing their property taxes. We will hear much tonight and in the coming weeks about how tough this budget cycle is, about how dire the needs truly are. I just hope that your primary focus will be the financial difficulty that many of our friends and neighbors right here in this county are experiencing. While I can only speak for myself, many of the excuses year after year have grown tiresome. And as my grandmother was fond of saying, a person truly is only as good as his word. If you are going to be a yes on a property tax increase budget this cycle, I do not want to hear that you had no idea how dire the county's situation and the needs were. I do not want to hear that you are fiscal conservative. I do not want to hear about your past as a fighter for low taxes. Those things will be just that, in the past. Thank you.
Mike Owens. And after him will be Brenna Rapp. If you want to come on up and stand here.
Ready? Mike Owens, Snow Camp, Green Hill Road. I'm mad because I got to be up here. I've been working in the hayfield. I don't need to be up here babysitting people who call themselves Republicans. Steve Carter give us most biggest tax increase the county's ever known. He used to go to Washington, D.C. and fight with the Tea Party. He's flipped the script. He's a rhino. Now I'm having to come up here. You got people like Miss Thompson over here saying she's got a bad memory. Zoning. We need zoning. It ain't been but a couple of years ago, we overwhelmed the courthouse with people that were against zoning. They stopped the meeting. The county was, whoa, whoa. Now she's shoving it. Steve Carter's talking about all because of a housing development. Zoning and housing are two different things. You want to do something about housing? Make the lots bigger. Then you're going to make it hard on the starting couples. But hey, you'll slow the houses down. I'm against zoning and I'm against a tax increase. My aunt's a retired school teacher. She'll tell you right now, money ain't the answer to all the problems. Since I've been an adult, school teachers always want more money, more money, more money. Look at our school system now. My kid graduated the 5th grade, passed EOG. I took him out at Christian school. They gave him a test. He come in at 4.6. He wasn't at 5th grade level, but yet he passed the EOG to go to 6th grade at Southern Middle School. I put him in Almus Christian, smartest move I ever made. And I ain't got nothing against the public schools. I got some teachers, friends of mine. But hey, when I worked, I didn't think about going and getting a raise from my boss if I was doing a poor job. I was hoping that he wouldn't give me the boot and fire me. So all I'm saying is, if you're going to spend money like it's grown on a tree and take it from us, that ain't right. And another thing, I'll tell you, like I told a county commissioner years ago, he said, if you can balance the budget, just tell me how. I said, I'd do it just like I do my own home, my own business. You can't do thrills and everybody come along and want some money. You got to say no. You got to say no. It's okay to do this school teacher raise if you got the money, but don't tax us to give it to them after you done blowed a bunch of money on walking trails, canoe paths. When I was a kid, I took a hatchet and made my way to the creek and drug a boat. I ain't got nothing against the dadgum landing for a canoe, but don't make the taxpayer, the hardworking man, pay it so somebody else has some fun while you're going to raise my taxes. That ain't right. It's just the only two people up here that's done right has been Mr. Perot and Miss Allen. This Mr. Powell, he ain't shed enough fruit for me to judge him, but I will be back. I will be back. And I'm going to tell you, the voters in November is going to remember this tax increase. My sister just retired. She's worried she's going to have to sell her house because she ain't going to pay taxes. Insurance going up, taxes going up. We're going to do a reevaluation. That's going to go up. You're going to pay more taxes even if you don't go up on taxes. You're going to dollar us to death. I paid over $20,000 in property tax. When does it end? What's the county do for me? Paid a dadgum $500 fee just the other day to get a well dug. Why didn't my property taxes take care of that? It's bull.
Here's Rapp, and next is Sadie Rapp. And next is Sadie Rapp.
Hi, everyone. I am Bryna Rapp, and I am here to talk about the mega developments planned for our corner of Morrow Mills, Saxbahaw area, part of the county. And it was 2 developments. Now we're aware of 4 developments. So it's coming fast. I've lived on Morrow Mill for over 35 years. As someone who grew up in the Deep South, I appreciate folks' resistance to too much government regulation. Most of us do not want to be told what we can and can't do on our property. In my experience, this way of thinking has generally worked well in places where resources are abundant and there's lots of space between neighbors, as has been the case in rural North Carolina for as long as I've been here. But things are changing rapidly in ways that lead me to think differently about who and what needs government protection. When thinking about the people in my neighborhood who might be negatively impacted by regulation, I picture my neighbors who have been farming for generations now finding it difficult to make ends meet. They need to find alternative sources of income, maybe through agritourism or selling a stand of trees or setting up an Airbnb or something. They should be allowed to do that without a lot of fees or red tape. I also picture younger folks like my kids who need to think differently about the need for land preservation as they face a life of increased weather extremes and devastating plant and animal species loss. They need flexibility to figure out how to use the land in sustainable ways. In all cases, I'm picturing a human being, a neighbor, a friend, someone who has ties to the land and who cares about their neighbors. I trust that these folks would not do anything knowingly to undermine the water supply or make choices that would keep the rest of us from pursuing our own activities. The challenge now is that the people who are benefiting from the lack of county oversight are not individuals at all. They are deep-pocketed development companies who, whether they're local or not, are making deals with national companies to extract the maximum profit from our land, whether it be through massive housing developments or data centers. All of the profits are going to unnamed investors, outside interests, folks who cannot pronounce Saxe-Bahá, much less find it on a map. After attending multiple community gatherings, I appreciate that many of you want to do what you can to ensure Alamance grows in ways that don't undermine what's already here, what we already love. You understand that basic land use plans that keep urban style density out of remote areas that lack the infrastructure to support them is not the same as some county official telling you what color you can paint your shutters. No one is asking for that. You have your 2020 land development plan as a guide. The people of Alamance want farmland protected, and I ask you to put the debate and adoption of a land use plan on your agenda as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Temple, you will be after Ms. Rapps.
Hi there. I'm Sadie Rapp, and I've lived on Morrow Mill Road my whole life. And I am here on behalf of the rest of my family and many others in Southeast Alamance who are passionate about preserving our ability to live safely in the rural parts of the county. As you've heard, we are firmly opposed to the subdivision proposals that have been made for Morrow Mill and Austin Quarter roads, among others. And we have twice now, on very short notice, been able to gather really impressive crowds on weeknights, and all because we are desperate to learn what we can do to stop the threat these proposed developments pose to our wells, our roads, and our waterways. We understand that these proposals do not come before this board for review, but it is not accurate to say that that means there's nothing y'all can do. You can pass common sense land use regulations that apply to the rural parts of the county. As Senator Amy Galey explained at the community meeting last week, the state's prohibition on downzoning does not prevent the enacting of zoning where it didn't previously exist. Furthermore, it's not like this is some brand new concept for Alamance that it's never seen. The incorporated parts of the county have guiding ordinances. We just believe that the rural areas deserve to have the same avenues for protecting ourselves from dangerous and haphazard development. Housing developments can be a huge asset to a growing region, but having no guidance on where and how they can be built guarantees that they become a burden instead of a benefit. We are asking that you, the commissioners, 1, add the issue of rural land use ordinances to your next agenda. 2, declare a moratorium on development while working out the regulations on the grounds of investigating the health and safety risks. And 3, to adopt common sense land use ordinances aligned with the guidance in your 2020 land development plan that you've already adopted to limit the size and number of lots per parcel in rural and agricultural areas. And if what we've heard is true, that you have already asked the planning department to draft zoning ordinances, we ask that you do everything possible to expedite that review, as we want to see y'all voting for this before the November elections. And additionally, we request that a moratorium on development proposals in the unincorporated areas is placed until zoning is enacted. We hope that you will grant us these pathways to protect our way of life in the farmlands of Alamance. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it was Carl Temple. So Carl Temple, there you are. Sorry, Mr. Temple. Didn't have my glasses on. And Peter Childers, you'll be next after him.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to have this time to speak with each one of you commissioners and to you people out here in the audience. You'll see that I'm not a polished speaker. I would say I was a retired cotton picker, but that was a long time ago. My concern is taxes. At the present time, I spend over 20% of my income on taxes. And I certainly, like I said, thank you for being here. And Mr. Carter, you voted for the largest tax increase we've ever had, as far as I know. I thought Republicans were for lower taxes, but that's why I voted for you. I was wrong. We have had one Republican, as far as I know, not to vote for a tax increase, and he's no longer with us, and that was Mr. Paisley. To me, this is what's most important. 98% of you people in here have a budget. You have to live by it. You can't ask the boss for another $1,000 next month. That won't work. And what I don't understand is why the county don't have a budget. We say we do, but we don't. When your department heads come to you for more money, no problem. We can go to the tax. We'll raise the property tax. At one time, it was a few years ago, some politician checked in the county, and the average person, of course, there was a lot of mill workers living then, their taxable, their income for Social Security was around $1,000 to $1,100. So if you go up $50 on property tax, that's not much to a lot of us, but to some folks that is. And like I said a while ago, my 20% of my income is property tax. That's not good. And I don't understand why we can't live within the tax base. That should be our budget. I know those department heads come to you, they may ask for 50% when they know they ain't gonna get but 25 or 30 because they've already got that put in the package. Sometimes you don't need power windows. You can do with roll up and down windows. We can maybe back off just a little bit. We don't have to have the nicest thing out there. It's nice and cute and it's pretty, but can we really afford it? There's a lot of people in this county. I turned 82 the other Saturday. There's a lot of people out here 65, 80 years old. They are not 20 and 25 making 100 and 125 in a year. We've got a lot of county employees making 50, 100. We're going to make millionaires out of some of these county employees in 10 years. I don't really go along with that. Well, I know I didn't go to college, and of course that was my problem. And if I had, I don't know if I'd be making $100,000 a year or not. And then another thing, I hope to goodness the next time you people decide to spend $26 million of our tax money for cleanup work, that you get bids. We spent that $26 million, and y'all know where it went. Yeah. I'm not calling no name. The person didn't get fired that okayed that without a bid.
Mr. Tim.
And another thing,
Mr. Tim.
why in the world should anyone get a day off with pay with our tax money to go vote for a union? I don't understand that. Thank each one of you people. Have a good day. And by the way, make somebody's day this week.
Thank you. Mr. Childers. And if Rodney Monholt, he'll stand up and be next.
Well, commissioners, here we are again, attempting to get you all to hear our plea for responsible land use planning and regulations that consider all residents of the county, not just developers and builders. My residency in this county of 30 years has seen nothing but stonewalling by successive short-sighted commissioners to consider sensible land use planning. Planning that will reduce conflicts with existing landowners to incompatible development brought to our neighborhoods, such as is happening now in our Morrow Mill community. The attitude I sense from commissioners is we are just a bunch of pesky taxpayers who should just suck it up and take whatever comes our way, even if it threatens our well water security, causes traffic nightmares, and ruins the rural way of life that we chose to live. We understand and accept growth will come, but not the overwhelming and staggering proposal of almost 1,000 homes with no suitable county infrastructure for water, sewer, roads, schools, and everything else that will be provided for the 4,000 people that will live there. If this body had adopted the sensible land use policy which was presented last year by Planning Director Matthew Hoagland, as a result of the extensive work and discussions by his staff and the Planning Board, we probably would not be here tonight. I can do nothing but urge you to take the bold step residents are asking you to take. We want to see a motion tonight that will end the present land-use adversarial Wild West we now have to live with and adopt planning staff recommendations as they were presented to you August 18th of last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDuffie, you'll be after him, or top, yeah, Aiden, yeah.
My name's Rodney Holt, and I live barely in Alamance County, live on the Guilford County line. I'm not here to harangue anybody about taxes. I don't envy you having to make some of the decisions you have to make. But I would like to point out one thing, and this statement was made all years ago by somebody with the Institute of Government, Chapel Hill, that the property tax is the only fair tax. Well, I disagree with that a lot. I think property tax is probably one of the most unfair taxes. It's very close akin to a wealth tax in my way of thinking. And the wealth tax is being proposed in some of the bastions of socialist thought recently. And I would just ask the commissioners to be very fiscally responsible. Think about what the true function of government is. The government has an insatiable appetite for money, taxes. And there are lots of ways to raise money through fees other than a property tax. You know, you can have a sales tax. You can have all kinds of fees that I'm sure we already have. But I'd just like to leave you with that food for thought that property tax is basically a wealth tax, the way I look at it. And whether you can afford to pay property tax or not, you know, some people have a problem paying the property tax, what they owe. But the more you own, you know, if you've accumulated a little wealth, you pay more property tax if you own more property. That's kind of the American dream, is to own property, own a home, own something. And we're being penalized for it. So I'd just like to leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Aiden?
Hello, I'm Aiden McDuffie, and my address is 665 Southwick Place in Mebane, North Carolina. My understanding is that one of the topics being discussed tonight is the proposed Morrow Mill subdivision. Now, I'm completely aware that you don't have any power to directly deny it unless it doesn't follow state and local building law. I looked at the notes for last month's commissioner meeting, and multiple of you mentioned how you share many of the concerns that residents have brought forward, but have said that you don't have much to do to stop it. However, the reason you don't have the power to stop it is because there's no countywide zoning in Alamance County. This is something that you as county commissioners do have control over. My understanding is that last year, Planning Director Matthew Hoagland presented a proposal for a rural preservation ordinance to you, which would, quote, create a basic form of zoning that would mirror existing development while allowing the county some discretion on what type of development is allowed, where it should be located, and where it should be located. It was not put to a vote, and Commissioner Carter responded, if people don't want it, it doesn't behoove us to try and pass it. My question is why? Why can't the county enforce basic zoning to prevent inappropriate developments like this? Why is the stance that people don't want it? It seems clear to me from the turnout at this meeting, the previous meeting, and the meeting last Monday at Bethlehem Church that people do want zoning. They want smart land use. Based on your land use plan document, 74% of county residents supported prioritizing agricultural preservation, and 99% were against business as usual with development. That never happens. People want zoning. Developments like Morrow Mill would degrade local character, stress county infrastructure, including roads and schools, and potentially dry up the wells in the area. And also potentially cost the county large sums of money if it had to expand the aforementioned infrastructure or annex the area to provide water to the homes once the wells have dried up. As a few of you stated, you share that concern. Zoning would do little to restrict the type of growth that you as a county want to encourage because it's designed to mirror it and can be changed over time on a case-by-case basis to reflect it, as has been done in places like Mebane, or even just be very unrestrictive in the first place. However, it would allow you to have more control over things like this that would steer the county in the wrong direction and allow you to have control over what the county looks like in the future. I don't see the downside for you, the county, or its residents of giving you more power to discern what type of development happens. If this project or future ones similar to it go forward as a result of lack of zoning, I see no good outcome for the county or those living in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tasha Miles, and then it'll be Sean Ewing.
Tasha Miles.
She's coming.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
And then it'll be Sean Ewing if he'll go ahead and see where he can get up. Okay.
He can get up quicker than I could. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Allen and County Commissioners. My name is Tasha Miles, and I live in the rural part of Elon. I stand here this afternoon and I ask, are y'all supposed to be put for the people? The way things have been going in our county, and on top of what the state is doing, making us not trust any of you as elected officials, and that it's sad. Have you thought about how you will reassure the citizens and how you all can have better communications with us? I want to understand, do you really understand what your duty is as being an elected official? I ask this question, if you are holding a position so that you can call the shots that are beneficial for some, then I think you may need to reevaluate yourself. I often wonder when I talk to citizens about voting, the answer I get is my vote doesn't matter. When I hear that, I get discouraged. But then when I see what's going on, I vote faithfully. Some of you know me and some may not. I am a person that will ask questions until I get some answers. I know some of you have expressed your thoughts on public education. I want you to know one thing. Have you all sat in a classroom the entire school day? Or rode a bus, morning, afternoon, or both, or sat at a front desk, or even worked in the cafeteria, even sat with a nurse or a social worker? I would like to give you a project on a homework assignment. I would like to see if you all will be willing to shadow 2 or 3 of these positions and see what it's truly like, and maybe you all can understand why you see so many job postings, and then you see us in meetings like this. I know that budget time is approaching, so I also ask that you approve the budget for the ABSS is requesting. These students are our future, and the adults that are trying to get them a bright future need more support than what they have. You expect for us to walk the walk and talk the talk, but all we see is for y'all is the talk and not the walk. Thank you for your time.
Sean Ewing.
Good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Sean Ewing, proud resident of Mebane and Alamance County. I'm here, I love this county, but I'm worried about it. For years, this community has watched the same cycle repeat itself. Our schools ask for what they need, our libraries ask for what they need, our EMS workers ask for what they need, and year after the year, the county comes up short. This is not a new problem. In 2023, ABSS had just $102,000 left in its entire fund balance. $102,000 for a school district serving tens of thousands of kids. Superintendent himself publicly said ABSS has been underfunded for decades. And when the mold crisis hit that same year, we saw the cost of deferred investment in real time. 33 school buildings, a delayed school year, and millions in emergency spending that could have been avoided. This past budget cycle, we nearly did it again. Proposed budget would have cut school funding by 19%, closed 3 library branches, Graham, Mebane, Burlington, and slashed support for our rescue squad, the very men and women we call when someone falls through the ice or their vehicle becomes inundated with water, like Tropical Storm Chantal. One community member pointed out about our EMS. Alamance County is estimated to have over 184,000 people and growing. Best practice recommends 1 ambulance per 100,000 residents. We have 9 ambulances for a county that should have roughly 18. Here's what I'm asking the board tonight when we look at this budget. Fund our essential services fully. Not an afterthought, not a political compromise. Schools, libraries, EMS, and family services, these are not line items. They're foundations of our community. Second, should we not fully fund the budget, give our residents the transparency they deserve? Tell people clearly and specifically what services will be reduced and eliminated. And when the county cannot provide those services, tell residents where they can go instead, what nonprofits, what state agencies, what neighboring resources are available to fill the gap. Our people deserve to know, not to find out when they call 911 when it's too late. The county is growing. The demands of our services are growing. The time for half measures and deferred decisions are over. I have 48 seconds left. With this last time, I urge you to consider land use plan. If the quarry wasn't a wake-up call, if the recent landfill decision wasn't a wake-up call, then Morrow Mill is. I beg you, I plead with you, consider the rural character of Alamance County, and this is a right that we can actually empower ourselves and empower the people of Alamance County with. So please consider zoning, please consider land use plan. Thank you all for your moments of this evening, and look forward to any discussions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Deborah, CHANER. If Southie Blanton wants to come on up ahead of her, he's probably in the overflow room too.
What's the second name?
Southie Blanton. Southie, excuse me.
Hi, my name is Debbie Shaner, and I live at 5430 Tom Road in Mebane. For years, I came to a number of meetings and spoke concerning the lack of zoning or at least any building restrictions here due to everyone being on well water. My concern was for my family and other residents who did not want developers coming in, putting as many houses on a piece of ground as possible, making a fast buck, and then moving on at the expense of those current residents. At that time, I brought a folder for each of the commissioners that contained research that I had done regarding our most precious natural resource, our water, including a report from the EPA from 2010 that said at the rate that North Carolina was growing in 10 years, we would face water shortages. This is now 16 years later. The last meeting I attended, there were some proposed subdivision suggestions made, such as a minimum 2-acre lot if subdividing a parcel, and if a larger parcel, such as 100 acres farm, then a minimum of 5-acre lots to help minimize the overuse of our groundwater and lessen the effects of development on our aquifers. I thought that was the end of it, and we were going to have some common sense restrictions in place to safeguard our water. Today, I see that none of this has happened, and we are seeing the possibility of 1,000 homes going in off Morrow Mill Road. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. Of course, while I object to the light pollution, traffic, and the need for more resources, my primary concern is for our groundwater. It is our most valuable natural resource, and putting in 1,000 new homes with wells and septic systems in our county is the opposite of stewardship of that resource. 1,000 new homes will use an average of 300,000 to 400,000 gallons of water per day, or 110 million to 146 million gallons of water per year being pumped from our underground sources in an already drought-prone area. The fact is that the rainwater that falls in developed areas Only about 15% is actually absorbed back into the ground. And that includes the pollutants from driveways, lawns, roofs, etc. But the rainwater that falls on the fields and forested areas is absorbed at about 55%. Developments such as these create impervious surfaces, altered hydrology, pollution, vegetation loss. Excessive pumping rates can exceed our natural recharge rates, leading to groundwater depletion and declining water levels in wells. This unsustainable extraction can compromise the long-term availability of groundwater resources. I am a very conservative person, and I believe in less government and less government interference in our lives making and decision making. But I also believe that some restrictions are common sense, and protecting our water and our access to water should be of paramount importance when limiting how much building we have in Alamance County. Will 1,000 new homes expand the tax base? Yes. But will it offset the cost of new infrastructure? Sorry, and more importantly, will it expend our existing water supplies to the point of no return?
Thank you. Mr. Blanton? Mr. Blanton, and then next will be Ramona Allen.
Just that right there. Good evening, Chairman Allen and Commissioners. My name is Southey Blanton, and I live at 3323 Elk Street in Burlington. I'm excited for budget night. I want to acknowledge the hard work that goes into a budget and applaud the Alamance County staff for showing that a budget can be created and presented on time. Perhaps county staff could give state legislators tips on how that's done. Every single budget is important, but I would be inclined to say this year's budget is especially important, given the possibility that it might be the last budget you all get to pass where you actually have full control of approval and implementation. I say this because, as of today, 4 constitutional amendments have been proposed by our state leaders, with more possible before November. 2 of them are symbolic. They enshrine the right to farm and right to work in our state constitution. North Carolina has been a right to work state since 1947. And we've had a legal right to farm since 1979. At this rate, the next one might be like voting on the right to order a corn dog as the side at cookout on your tray. But there are 2 other amendments that actually matter. Senate Bill 1080 caps state income taxes, meaning a billionaire gets to pay the same as the retired vet who lives next door on a fixed income, or the teacher who works 2 summer jobs. If costs continue to rise, that means the only solution is cuts to services, food assistance, housing assistance, Medicaid, pre-K, and veteran services. House Bill 1089 sets a limit on county property tax rates, taking away counties' abilities to adjust and pay for local services residents need. The result is less teacher supplements, less infrastructure funding or EMS services, and further pain to vulnerable communities. I'd also add that the amendment allows state legislators to make exemptions, but not county leaders. The budget's going to show what the county truly cares about and what it's willing to do to ensure it provides for its residents the services they need. I was recently able to attend a library committee meeting, and I got to listen to a laundry list of incredible events, programs, and services the library's been able to provide to its community, including a program making computers available to patrons. Technology that most of us take for granted, but that allow residents to apply for jobs, submit applications for housing or medical services, or simply connect with loved ones. I then got to listen to almost 2 hours of bickering and complaining regarding the library committee leaders' frustrations that their book censorship campaign isn't as popular or as effective as they hoped it would be. The job of public employees is to use the resources they're given to provide the public with the maximum amount of information, education, and support as possible. These men and women face additional restrictions and requirements with each passing year, but the extra work never seems to come with extra pay, extra benefits, or extra funding. That's what a budget's for. I hope this board can work to ensure the services we rely on get the support they need, as I fear if Raleigh gets its way, you all may no longer have any say in the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Tabitha Boswell will be after Ms. Allen.
Good evening. My name is Ramona Allen. I live at 2711 White Oak Drive in Burlington. I've seen a lot of people with cue cards of what they want to say, but I'd rather speak from my heart. I looked around as I've seen people coming together. There's something we all have in common in this room. We all have issues that we want resolved, and we want people that's able to help resolve those issues, whether it be education, whether it be the landfills, whether it be new infrastructures, whatever it is, we all have a common ground. What seems to be the problem is with that common ground, we're not using common sense. We need people that are hearing us. We need to have more listening sessions instead of talking sessions. We've talked enough. It's time for some action. As I looked at that, we have the "In God We Trust." And something I'm looking at is, do we really trust God? Have we really trusted God? Somewhere we put him on the back burner and only pull him out when we think is in the best interest of us being heard. But I believe that he's the best leader that we could ever have. I'm not here to be a politician, and I'm not even running to be a politician. I believe there should be a voice at the table. There are people right now that need a voice. They need to be heard. They want to be heard. The teachers need to be heard. I was at the Arts Around the Square, and it came from just being from a politician to dealing something personal. I heard a teacher. She had her son, and she said, "I'm just not voting." I said, "No, don't say that. Your voice matters." She said, "It doesn't." She said, "They're not listening." And we talked for a while, and it went from politics to personal. She began to talk about the issues that she was having personally, not having enough money after getting paid. She's going to food banks, and she says she's tired of DoorDashing and Grubhubbing to make ends meet. There are people in this room right now that have those same issues, and we want to be heard. We just need a listening ear and a compassionate heart. So I'm asking that you would search yourselves and look farther in your paper and your politics and see the person. Thank you.
Thank you. After Ms. Boswell, it will be LaVon Barnes, sorry. I need to put my glasses on.
Hi, y'all. My name is Tabitha Boswell. Y'all have seen me here before, but I'm the Vice President of Alamance Burlington Association of Educators. I'm from Alamance County. I went through Alamance County Schools. And I wanted to talk about teacher pay. It seems to be a hot topic. We are talking about smart investments and fiscal responsibility. That's a word that I love because fiscal responsibility means putting your money where it's supposed to be and growing with the investments and being smart with your money. Right now, schools across our state struggle with teacher shortages, high turnover, and burnout. Currently, I have 3 jobs, not including being vice president and not including going to Duke University at the same time. Okay? Every time a teacher leaves a district, their experience goes with them. When you pay teachers poorly, what's going to happen is they're going to go to districts that pay them more. That is just the bottom line. Competitive teacher pay is the fiscally conservative response. It is the better route because it saves money long term because you keep teachers who want to stay here longer than 5 years. Retaining experienced teachers reducing hiring costs, improves student outcomes, and strengthens local economies. Strong schools also raise property values and attract businesses. Underpaying teachers create expensive problems that we're seeing: lower student achievement, weak workforce proportions, greater strain on social services. Investing upfront in educators is the smart investment. Conservatism should mean spending wisely, not spending recklessly and then minimizing the spending. It is practical the investment that delivers measurable returns for the community, families, and taxpayers alike. I also wanted to address that in previous meeting, we talked about research. My background is actually in research, so I wanted to actually look at the research. And when you said that it doesn't support that teachers getting paid more is not supporting achievement, I didn't find that information. I actually found information that strongly supported teacher pay and how it supports teacher retention. It helped in New Jersey, it helped in Arizona, it helped in Texas. And so I'm not entirely sure where you're getting your studies from, but with my access with Duke University, I was able to find at least 100 studies with a meta-analysis of those studies to support this. So if we're talking about the data to be supported and we're talking about that, we need to talk about what is actually fiscally conservative, is putting our money where our mouth is.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes and then Paula Davis.
Good evening. First, on days like today, in a week that we are having, I would love to see the county create, partner, and communicate cooling area places that people can go, unlike the lack of organization shown with the emergency management group when it came to the white flag options. I'm hoping that what I say today hits your ears, then it hits your heart. I'm always going to say leadership is hard, and being accountable for the decisions that we are making is even harder. But that is what we have signed up to do. The people that I get to talk to every day throughout this county are finding it harder and harder to make it. They are growing tired of the backdoor politics and elected officials not meeting and hearing them and meeting them where they're at. Sometimes you have to make decisions that are not going to be popular with your political party, but what is right for the good of the people you serve. Some of the previous speakers consistently coming up here to talk with you are doing it not because they don't have better things to do, but they're doing it because you're not listening. So I encourage the people of this county to keep showing up, keep signing up, or vote them out. This educator understands the burdens that the county and the municipalities are under because of the lack of a state budget. And these burdens are only going to get harder if you don't speak up and out against the proposed constitutional amendments that will cap what local municipalities can do and how they can raise money. I know a lot of you that are on the ballot won't speak against your friends in the state house that help fund your campaigns, but do you work for them or do you work for us? I heard a lot of speakers talking about not raising taxes. Well, I don't want my taxes to be raised either. But if it means better schools, safer roads, opportunities for young people, and safer communities, then that's why I moved here in the first place, and it's part of the price to pay. But we wouldn't have to raise taxes if the state would do its job by creating a fair wage tax and raising the minimum wage. At this point, some of you will say whatever sounds nice to stay in the seats that don't belong to you. Most of you couldn't answer a direct question if they asked you. Some of y'all do better tap dancing than Sammy Davis Jr. himself. Ultimately, that has worked in the past. It's made you comfortable, complacent, and somewhat lazy. Now is not the time. Because of your lack of action and inaction that has already hurt the next generation, there are the people here who are going to stand up to you. But remember, we will have the final say in November. And just to talk about education for a second, y'all need to pass and then increase. I don't care what the county manager is saying. You need to pass and then increase what ABSS is asking you for. These kids are suffering. And it's y'all's fault. Not just y'all's fault, but you're the reason. You have an opportunity to change that. So I hope that you give them the funding that they need so our young people can have better opportunities in this county. Thank you.
Ms. Davis. And then after Ms. Davis is going to be Catherine Snyder.
Hello, I'm Paula Davis, and I live at 1026 Broad Rock Road, Snow Camp, North Carolina. So I am in the rural area, and thank all of you for being on the Board of Commissioners. I know this is not an easy job, and I know pretty much all of you personally because I campaigned for all of you and worked very hard and on your behalf every year that I've been here in the last 4 years. But I am up here to tell you I cannot have my property taxes to go up again. And I want you to have to look at my face every time I come to meetings to campaign for you and know that. And I'm expecting you to do what's best to keep our property taxes affordable. And you can find money other places. I count on your brilliant minds to get together and actually call on citizens that have good, they have good advice. They know things. They know it takes many minds to figure this complex thing out. And you should use the human capital that we have here. I heard brilliant things said on the campaign trail and people that had many things to offer. So I don't know why you don't allow citizens to help you solve problems. But I'm the face of a 72-year-old person that has to work now. I am working because I can't afford how it is right now, knowing the worst is coming. And I have friends that you all know, Joe Trauber. I mean, we are the face of old aging people that cannot pay our bills. We're worried about what food is going to be like. I have had to quit driving my car because the gas is too much. You know, I'm going to have to start riding a bicycle to work. I mean, these are the options I'm up against. And I brought a whole bunch of my neighbors and I want them all to stand. No, stand. I want you to stand. And I thank you for letting me speak. It is a privilege to live in America. Just know taxes are not neutral. We were formed. Why did the United States form? Do any of you remember? Taxation without representation, tyranny from Britain. I am feeling like this is happening all over again. If there was some tea I could go dump in an ocean somewhere, I'd probably lead the party. Thank you.
And Lucas Tyson will be after her.
I'm on that table too. My name's Kathy Snyder, and I too live on Broad Rock Road. And I'm not going to go through all the stuff we've all talked about, but I want to just say I'm in her boat. I'm a senior citizen. I was born here in Alamance County almost 74 years ago. And if I could get a job, I'd be working. But I have a disabled husband and I have to take care of him. And so we deal every day with higher taxes, higher car insurance, higher light bill. My thermostat is set on 82 right now because I can't afford another $300 and some light bill. We just don't know what to do next. So I'm pleading with you. You don't have offers for, I'm a veteran also, Army veteran, proud Army veteran. You don't have a discount for veterans that I'm aware of to get lower taxes, and you don't have senior citizens taxes, but we live on $3,200 a month. And out of that, there's not much left with the gas. I'm not going to go through it. You've heard it 1,000 times. It's hard for senior citizens. I had a retirement. I used my retirement to keep both my parents out of a rest home. They lived with me till they died. And I'm happy I did that. I'm happy. But I don't have an income coming in from a retirement now because that's what I chose to do. Take care of my family. Now I'm pleading with you. Don't raise the taxes. I know it's easy to say, but that's in your hands and you can do it. At least low, not as much, skip a year or two, but for the last 3 years, they've gone up and we can't take any more. Thank you, commissioners, for listening to me. I love Alamance County. That's why I came back and retired here. But thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lucas Fasan. I am 16 years old and a lifelong Alamance County resident living in 3033 Druid Drive, Burlington, North Carolina. I attend the Harvard School in Sax Bahar, North Carolina, close to where the proposed Morrow Mill development would be built. I hope to be an urban designer one day, and from that perspective, I cannot see any reason why Alamance County should allow the Morrow Mill development. Sorry, my thing's getting development. I know development is at times necessary and isn't inherently negative, though there are clearly more downsides than upsides with Morrow Mill. Sax Bahar is popular because of its community and its walkable, community-oriented design, something sparsely seen in Alamance County. The Morrow Mill development will only take away from that community and natural beauty that makes Sax Bahar so popular in the first place. Outside of the fact this development disrespects the existing rural fabric of Saxbahaw, it seems simply unwise for the county to allow this development. Recently, USDA declared Alamance County a natural disaster area for droughts. Yet this development will require just short of 400,000 gallons of water to be pumped from our wells. I ask the county commissioners how it is wise to allow 400,000 gallons of water to be pumped daily when our county is in a state of drought. That does not make sense to me. Furthermore, the economic gain this development will provide to the county is negligible compared to its drastic environmental downsides. Due to Saxbahaw's convenient location, this development will mainly house Chapel Hill commuters. It is simply not worth putting our watershed, our native animal life, and our Saxbahaw community at risk to house commuters contributing corporate tax money to a foreign county. If any of you have respect for our county and our towns, it is imperative that you do what you can to prevent the environment and community degradation that is this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Schleifer. Tom
Shopler.
Schopler. Tom is Schopler.
He's going. He's going to you.
Hey, I'm Tom Shopler, live on Morrow Mill Road, and I've raised this up so I don't have to lean down. I guess what I want to say is that I've talked to 4 of the 5 of you individually, and you all have said that you agree that we need regulation. I'm not going to say zoning, but we need developmental regulation. 4 or 5 of you is a majority. That's enough to make a decision and pass it. I encourage you to do that, please.
Thank you. The county commissioners have 3 minutes and it will be on the clock to respond. You want to start, Mr. Priol?
Well, that's a whole lot of folks talking. So I'm not sure I could cover everything, and I won't try to at this moment. But I will talk about property taxes, and I don't know where Mr. Temple went to. I wanted to let Mr. Temple know. Are you in the room, Mr. Temple? There were 2 commissioners who voted against raising taxes last go round. Commissioner Ed Priola was the other one. Just want to let you know. It was on my yard sign. So I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. I am not in favor of increasing property taxes. And that'll be 3 in a row come June. So what I want to say is pretty straightforward, and it's no surprise. I want to lend my strong voice to objecting to yet another property tax increase. Let's look at the numbers briefly. This Board of Commissioners increased the tax rate by 0.61 cents in 2023. It increased by 3.66 cents in 2024 and by 2.5 cents in 2025. And now here we go again, contemplating another 2.5 cent increase. This relentless compounding of taxes is unnecessary, unreasonable, and for me, unacceptable. For too many families, as we've heard tonight, it isn't a mere inconvenience. It's a crisis. It's an addiction of government not learning how to say no. And some of the elected officials, candidly. It's driving long-term folks out of their homes. They can't afford all of this. It's locking young folks out of getting the American dream in the form of a home. It's locking them out of their home ownership entirely. The endless tax hikes force neighbors to choose between meals, medicine, and the mortgage. What do you pay first? What do you pay last? So too many taxes, too many increases, too darn often lately, time after time. It's time to freeze the property tax rate and compel Alamance County government to live within its means. Thanks.
Well, as Ed said, it's kind of hard to think about exactly where to start. There's a lot of territory covered tonight. One simple one. Zoning, whether you like it or not, has nothing to do with your shutter color, your front door color, or your garage door color. That's a homeowners association. I don't know where people keep coming up with that. The 8-cent tax increase I voted for in 2019. Folks, I've made more comments about that in the last almost 8 years now than anything else I've done. The citizens of Alamance County voted for a $189 million bond and turned down the method designed to pay for it. We have to pay for money when we borrow it. You wanted to borrow $189 million. We had to pay for it. That resulted in an 8-cent property tax increase. We had no choice. We had to raise the money to set up and pay back the debt that we all agreed to borrow. Somebody said something about whether or not we take these issues seriously. We have been trying to manage a budget. When I came on this board, we were down in a number of departments. We've worked really hard to build ourselves back to where we have the staff to support our citizens. A sheriff's office that has the sufficient staff to respond in an effective way when you make a 911 call. 911 service, EMS service, DSS service. We've rebuilt those departments from departments that were all running short in staff. This budget that's being proposed today, I don't know where we're going to go with it, but it's already making some significant cuts in staffing. But whether or not we take it seriously, I mean, the first thought I have, somebody made a comment about being on single income. I've got a friend who gets $900 a month. $900 a month, that's what he lives on. Now, I don't know how he survives, but he does. So yes, I take what we do seriously. Those increases that we just talked about, we did a salary study, spread that out over a 3-year period of time to rebuild our staff. We started out with Sheriff's Office, EMS, and DSS first, and then worked it through the rest of staffing. A comment made about the fair tax. The fair tax is a sales tax. We voted against that more times than I can shake a stick at. Tax base expansion. If we add more homes and we don't add more businesses, the cost of doing business in Alamance County for the county is going to rise. The last study said $1.46 for every dollar paid in tax by residents in Alamance County. So we have to grow commercial industry in the community. I understand, Thomas. I saw your finger, buddy.
Yeah. Your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Powell.
Yeah, I'd like to say that the property taxes that we have to pay are a requirement for us to provide services. The sheriff is here tonight. We have EMS needs. We have Department of Social Services that have had some problems in the last year or two. We also have debt, as Steve talked about, $189 million back in 2018, 15-year payoff. We're halfway through that cycle. In 21, 22, and 23, we were paying $20 million a year debt service. So when we're paying a huge debt service, and then we have all these other needs, then we have to balance the requirement that we have against the income that we have coming in. So last 2 years, there were increases in the property tax rate. And then we play this game of revaluation. So we revalue the taxes, we lower the rate, and then we raise the rate back up as we have to continue offering the services, and you get this roller coaster up and down of the rate.
The net of it is, though, we need a certain amount of taxes to be able to pay for what we need. And it's my intent to do everything we can to keep our taxes as low as possible, to make the best use we can and efficiency out of what we have. And I would like to say this, what I have learned about the county staff this year is that they are doing an outstanding job. And you would think that they come to us saying we need more money, and the county commissioners are having to say, no, 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 we can't. Well, the staff this year has come in. They have held the projected increases in cost of living with inflation to a minimum. They have cut salaries and staff people. They have already done a lot, and they're coming to us tonight with a budget that they're going to recommend. And the commissioners are still going to do everything we can to get that down. And I hope that when we have a budget that we present, when this is all over, that we have the best budget we can at the lowest possible rate. And that's what I'm going to push for.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yeah, I would like to encourage everybody to look at the February, it's the first or second week, Elements News about questionnaires for candidates and about how people support or they don't support zoning. And everybody has the right to change their mind, but it has to be for the real reasons. In 2024, I was asked about zoning, and I quote, I support. We have big industry on our borders, Randolph County, Toyota. Our folks need the power to decide what they want coming into their county. We must protect the rural part of our county. And this is what happens. Am I concerned about all that in there down in Saxpile? Yeah, because that makes me think I've got to have another elementary, middle, and high school. Because the schools in that area are already capacity. And I've said this before. I also said 2 or 3 meetings ago, we're going to be right back here again after this Bilby landfill because for some reason, we just can't take the step. And it's not fun to get in a corner because you don't need to make your decisions upon reaction. You need to be in prevention. That works with everything. And so, I've always been for zoning. Whatever that looks like, the best way for Alamance County, not some copy and paste zoning program for another county, because we are unique, we're not like anybody else, and we need to stay that way. But we need to make sure we do the right thing by everybody, because the more we grow, the more it costs. And and our tax rate is low compared to everybody else around us, and everyone wants to live here, but they want to work outside the county. And, that's where we go, and we seem to have gotten ourselves in a corner. So we're going to have to really make some big decisions on what we need to do, because we're just in a real spot right now because of not making the decisions that we should have made. You don't make your decisions based on elections or running for office. You make your decisions based on what is right, no matter how hard that is. And we as leaders have got to do that and be smart about it. So that's it.
First, I don't know if the man that made a comment is still here or not, but I do not accept money from other elected officials in Raleigh. And I just wanted to get that out there. And teacher pay comes from the state. And also, my family, my parents were working middle class. When I was 12 years old, I asked for an allowance, and I was told that I need to start babysitting and mowing yards if I wanted extra money, because what I did around the house was my part of being a family member. Also, at 16, I started working at Rose's Dime Store at Compart Plaza, which is still there, and I worked until I got through ACC nursing, and then I went to work at nursing. My husband came from a single mother home, and she worked 50 years in a mill doing production, and she got $600 a month Social Security and $50 a month after 50 years retirement. I know how hard it is on the working class. I lost my husband, so I've lost a Social Security check. Fortunately, we both worked really hard all our lives. We were tight with our money because we had to be. And my husband was a jack of all trades and we never paid for labor, which helped a whole lot. But I understand these people in Haw River that are telling me, I'm retired from the mill. I'm deciding between food and medicine. And I'm the one that really is a working class and understands what the working class is saying. I didn't inherit $1 million and I don't have a big title. I'm just regular working and I understand what these people are saying about they don't have enough money. You look at gasoline and you look at groceries and your gas bill and Duke Power just went up. I understand what these people are saying when they say they just cannot afford any more taxes. And this year, we have 2,361 people that are in arrears paying their taxes. And the total amount is $1,272,615. If they can't pay it now, let's keep adding taxes on them. That's all I gotta say. Now, the next thing is the consent agenda. I'll accept a motion for that.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have a presentation, which is our budget, and I would like to say that our county officials, I have never been more pleased with people that I have worked with, except what we had in Haw River. And they do work really hard, and they have worked continuously on this budget. And we have some of the best, brightest county employees of anywhere. Go ahead.
Thank you for the compliment, Chairman. Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. This has, of course, been a difficult budget. Ms. Page, you predicted that I would say that, and you're absolutely right. We've had a difficult year with a lot of challenges. Each year, this is my third year presenting the budget, and each year feels like it gets more and more difficult. I don't know how that is, but this budget is going to require further spending reductions. I feel like a bit of a broken record up here because I've said this now for 3 years in a row. It's going to require strong, disciplined spending and fiscal constraint. And tonight I'm presenting a recommended spending plan, but I'm also presenting your 5-year capital improvement plan. You had asked that we merge those processes together so that you could consider both at the same time. And finally, I'm also presenting some input from our residents. We decided to conduct a survey to help us gauge and make some of these difficult decisions, so I'd like to share some of that input with you as well. Let me get this turned on. Okay. So we knew at this point last year when we adopted a budget that this upcoming budget was going to be painful. We knew that we were facing a lot of challenges because of the decisions that we made last year at this time. So right out of the gate, we're starting with a $13 million deficit. That's a deficit between the revenues that we have and the expenditures that we know. The $13 million is what it would take to keep spending flat. We all know in our own household budgets that costs are not flat. The gap between revenues and expenditures has grown as we received requests from our education partners and from county departments. That gap increased to $23 million. We're seeing cost increases. We have had a continued reliance on non-recurring revenues that we've used to balance the budget for 3 years in a row and beyond. And we're seeing cuts being made at state and federal levels that are all contributing to the challenges that we're facing with this upcoming budget. How we got here, after our last revaluation, that was in 2023, our property tax was lowered from 65 cents to 43 cents. There seems to be some confusion about that being a year of increase in taxes. We actually dropped the tax rate by 22 cents that year. The result is that revenue growth was not captured. Your property tax base has grown, but not nearly enough to make up for the deficit. And we have made the decision to deplete our unassigned fund balance to fill the revenue gap. So the board chose to forego the revenue growth from the revaluation by reducing our tax rate. We've had to, in fact, continually since 23-24, as Commissioner Powell has pointed out, we have continually had to adjust the tax rate to accommodate for inflation, to accommodate for increasing demands on our services. So that tells me that may have been a little more significant of a cut than we probably should have made, because we're continuing year after year to have to fill the gap here. Meanwhile, our departments have been reducing their operating budgets. They've been cutting costs. That has been a recurring theme since I've been here. We continue to cut budgets. We are seeing increasing caseloads and additional calls for services, but we've not added new staff. Not at all. Here's your 5-year fund balance trend. I know that you like to look at trends year after year. So in 5 years, our fund balance has taken a dive since the reval year. You can see in fiscal year 23-24, the year that we had reval, we dipped below the board's policy to maintain 20% fund balance levels. We've been on a downward trajectory since then and continue to not meet our policy. The policy that the board adopted said that anything above 20% would be used to support capital expenditures. So the board, in fact, intended the threshold to be above 20%. That's how you were going to fund capital. So we are no longer meeting the 20%. We don't have a way to fund capital. And now we are risking some other impacts here by continuing to hit your fund balance. In fiscal year 25-26, the board appropriated $11 million out of fund balance. That is the largest amount in the history of Alamance County in 1 year. We must now consider rebuilding. We cannot continue to drain our fund balance. We are projecting at the end of the close of this fiscal year, your fund balance to be at 15.1% of your expenditures. Let me explain why this matters. I know it seems unimportant at times, but our fund balance level is a major indicator of the fiscal and financial health of an organization. Ours is declining, and therefore we don't have the capacity to handle emergencies. It's a scary thought. We have less than 3 months available reserves to fund departments should there be an emergency. Our strong AA1 and AA plus bond ratings are at risk. Again, why does this matter? It's because the ratings that we have actually save taxpayers money by keeping our borrowing costs low. Protecting these ratings is critical. We have not had a structurally balanced budget. What that means is that your recurring expenditures match your recurring revenues. We don't have that here. We have non-recurring revenues filling in the gaps. We need sustainable and recurring revenues to set this right. Your fund balance has been used to fill that gap. We knew that this was unsustainable and that this would be a limited use. So this year I am proposing a budget that does not use fund balance to balance the budget. In fact, $0 are coming from fund balance to fill this gap. We finally have a more structurally balanced budget for your consideration. So this is where we find ourselves. The revenue gap from fiscal year 25-26 appropriated fund balance is $12.9 million. I know I said $11 million. That was your undesignated fund balance. You also used some designated fund balance. So your total was $13 million. And we know we had low fund balance levels. This is contributing to the bond rating and reduced ability to respond to emergencies. So this is why we keep making cuts. I know we all feel like it's Groundhog Day because we're continuing to have the same conversation year after year about where can we cut. Some of you have even said, well, I don't want to cut services. So we wanted to take the opportunity to understand what are the board priorities, what are the community priorities? Is there an alignment of priorities or is there a disconnect? So this year we decided, instead of relying just on your public hearing, how about we implement a survey of the community and see if we can get some input to help understand what our priorities look like. These are the board goals. I'm revisiting these from your winter work session earlier this year. These were the board goals that the board, all 5 of you worked toward, and this is what we came up with after the work session. Supporting the county workforce and long-term competitiveness of the workforce. Community stability and public safety as being drivers of importance. Managing growth without losing our identity. Focusing on services, providing good customer service. And finally, fiscal discipline and tax sensitivity. This year, we have expanded the ways in which we're engaging with the public. And the reason that we continue to do that is that we want to understand and give the public the opportunity to weigh in. Ms. Davis in her comments said, why don't you ask the public what they want to do? And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to engage the public in more ways than just the public hearing. So throughout the year, we're doing revaluation meetings with our tax administrator. We're visiting civic groups and talking about our services and our challenges. And you'll see on here, we're planning future town hall forums. This is something the board has wanted to do after we conclude the budget process this summer. All right, so the budget survey, the one way that we jumped in on this public input heading into the budget. We launched the survey to help us navigate some of these difficult choices. We received 889 responses to our survey. And while this may seem like a small amount of respondents when given the size of the population of Alamance County, if you compare this to how many people speak at your public hearing, which is typically 40, 50, maybe 60, this is quite an additional amount of speakers. I will say that I did not seek to make this a scientifically valid survey, a statistically valid survey. We can argue about that if we want. This was simply a way to create another opportunity for public input. I'm not measuring coefficients of dispersion. It wasn't a random sample. The folks who took our survey obviously wanted their viewpoints heard. So we have 5 strategic pillars which outline the strategic goals for the county. We asked respondents of the survey to rank order the priority of these pillars. And this is the results of what they said. Education was number 1, followed by public safety, quality of life, smart development, and accountability.
Was that property owned? Was that sent out to all the property owners? Because if it wasn't, it's no more near back. We're paying it back.
Thank you, Chairman. The community priorities. So we asked, what are your top priorities for funding? 78% of those respondents said their top priority was to support Alamance Burlington school system. 59% of respondents said it was emergency medical services, followed by social services, public health, and libraries. The list goes on, and you can get the entirety of all the services and their ranking order on our website. And one other question that we thought was important to ask that I wanted to share. We've explained that we needed to cut services. And so we asked, where should the county cut spending? And gave them a choice of our services. Interestingly enough, 40% of respondents said that the county should cut spending in the sheriff's office, followed by planning, inspections, and permitting. And you can see the list from there. All right, your fiscal year 26-27 budget, your total general fund is proposed at $239.1 million. This represents a reduction of 1.2%. All of your funds, so not just general fund, which is primarily funded with tax dollars, all funds represents a 3% decrease for next fiscal year. Your general fund revenues and expenditures are reduced by $3 million from your current fiscal year 25-26. And we are only able to look back into our financial system when we received it in fiscal year 15-16. But we're able to say that the general fund expenditure budget has not decreased from a prior year since we implemented the finance system. Stability and sustainability are what we have built this recommended budget on. Here's a graphic showing the categories of revenues that the county has. The largest, of course, is property tax, followed by sales tax, and then state and federal funds, fees, licenses, and others. I'm going to delve in next onto our third largest category, which is the state and federal funds. State and federal funding cuts are facing all local governments, but particularly counties this year are facing a pretty uphill battle. We are seeing unprecedented reductions to revenues that support and fund our mandatory services. These services have to continue even when the funding goes away. The state and federal reductions that we're projecting for next year are about $2.9 million. We've had to backfill those unfunded mandates with local dollars to the tune of $2 million in this budget. We've also discontinued the ICE program. So when I subtract out the revenues that we were receiving from that federal program, we are seeing a shortage of state and federal revenues of $4.9 million in this budget. An increased burden is being placed on Alamance County residents, some by the federal government, some by the state. Let's see. Here's some of the examples that we are seeing reductions in. Some of these are coming from the big, beautiful bill that we had. Those are requiring more recertifications of our Medicaid recipients. We have about 60,000 Medicaid recipients here in Alamance County. And our administrative costs for the SNAP program, which is our food and nutrition services, we used to get reimbursed 50% from state to help fill in the cost of those employees. That is dropping on October 1st to 25%. We are having to cover an additional $875,000 in that program alone. We believe that the best way to reduce the tax rate is for the state to fully fund their obligations. We are seeing year after year that the county is having to step in for education, for social services, for public safety to help fill the gap. Also on your horizon, I think you heard from one of our speakers tonight, the state is also looking at impacting property tax revenues. There are pending legislative bills that can remove local control of our reval cycle, the amount of tax levy, and impose tax rate caps. Currently, 9 counties are in limbo as to whether or not they can conduct their revaluation. Those values went into effect January 1st of 2026. Alamance County is less than 12 months from being able to adopt a new schedule of values for January 1st of 2027. We are in a place where we are feeling some pain and some nervousness about what this might look like for us. Another impact to your property tax revenues, we call this the Blue Ridge housing loophole. All of the apartment complexes that are popping up all over our county now have the ability to be exempted from property tax. This is a 2013 court case of the Blue Ridge Housing versus Mitchell County, North Carolina. If even 0.1% of the ownership of the apartment complex is a nonprofit and they're able to provide affordable housing, they can be exempted from property taxes. So in your current fiscal year, we are losing $550,000 in property tax revenue due to this loophole. We are projecting to see a 17% increase next year, so about $650,000 you will not be able to collect if the state legislature does not close this loophole. We understand that they are working on this, so we are hopeful that we'll see some resolution to this soon. Your property tax base, we are seeing some natural growth, so that's some positive news. Your values have increased by about 3.6%, which incidentally matches the rate of inflation that we're currently seeing. Your collection rate for next year is projected at 99.1%, and 1 penny equivalent will generate $2.7 million next year. This is up from your adopted budget. Yes, I am proposing a tax increase. I'm not sure how everyone knows that already. I am recommending an increase of 2.25 cents. It's not 2.5, which is what I think I heard earlier. It's 2.25. We do worry about the impacts of a tax increase. We do not enjoy raising taxes. It is the last resort that we go to. But I do want to let you know that as far back as January 2021 is what our records on foreclosures go to, and we have not foreclosed on any property that has a resident living in it that is delinquent in their tax payments. And in fact, we've worked with over 400 individuals to help them stay in their houses and not be foreclosed upon. The 2.2 cent property tax adjustment will generate about $6.2 million in new revenue. On the flip side, what this means, if we want to back out the tax increase, we're looking to cut an additional $6.2 million from the proposed budget. For some context, the median home price in Alamance County is $289,000. Let me restate that. The median home price in Alamance County is $289,000, which would add about $65 annually. The math on that generates about $5.41 a month that the tax bill would be increased. Yes, we asked, would you support or oppose a property tax increase? The question that was in the survey was, would you support or oppose a property tax increase to maintain services? Not to get more, but to maintain. 48%, so about half, said that they would support a tax increase to maintain. 1/3 would oppose a property tax increase, and 1/5 would like more information. This is your 10-year trend on property tax rates. You can see from 22-23 to 23-24, the tax rate that was cut with revaluation of 22 cents. Let's take a look around at our neighbors. We know that counties are struggling. We know that municipalities are struggling. Here's a listing of some of the increases that have been announced over the past couple of weeks. I'll point out Guilford County. They're one of the 9 counties I mentioned whose reval is in limbo. They are recommending a tax decrease due to revaluation, but it's actually 8.64 cents above their revenue neutral. So they're not going to revenue neutral in their proposed budget. Another revenue that we depend on is our sales tax. We are seeing this stabilizing. You can see during the COVID months or years, we had some growth there in our sales tax, but for the most part, it is leveling out and stabilizing. Can't say the same about our interest earnings. You'll see that those are declining for obvious reasons. We have less fund balance, which we earned interest on. We have no more ARPA funds, which we earned interest on. So interest earnings will become a smaller revenue source for us. Here, I'm switching gears over to the expenditure side. For fiscal year 26-27, spending decreased in all categories of expenditures except for education. That's the only one that's not seeing a decrease. In order to minimize the tax increase that we needed, we have cut expenditures significantly. 1.2%, I cut about $23 million out of what was requested to get to this budget. I call this my no list affectionately. Cutting the $23 million, this is some of the impacts that we see. We have said no to ABSS and ACC's requests for current expense and the repair and maintenance budget. We have said no to the increased CIP. We've cut across the county almost $1 million in contracted services. These range from things like detainee food and health care, support for property tax reval, and an increase for the animal shelter. We have cut across county departments almost $100,000 in uniforms and clothing stipends. You heard about the whole blood program during your winter work session. That was a way that would help reduce community fatalities. Sadly, I wasn't able to fund that because we weren't expanding any funding or programs in our department, so that did not get put in the budget. And we've cut training by about $50,000 across all departments. Let me see if I can get back on track with my notes. No, okay. About 60% of the budget goes to support county government services and about 40% supports education. This has been maintained over the years, but we're continuing to backfill our operating support that's not provided by the state. Education for ABSS, we are recommending a slight increase to their current expense. This is about 1.5 million or a growth of about 2.5%. We are seeing the average daily membership, which is a measure of number of students in the schools, continuing to decline. Where there has been growth has been the private schools. And then we're seeing our current expense go up slightly as well. Now, this chart is a little difficult to see, but let me try to narrate it for you. This is showing your local per pupil funding expense. Alamance Burlington Schools ranked 100th out of 115 for the amount of per pupil funding. What's on the chart are our benchmark peers. So these are 13 local and regional counties that we compete for and that the schools likely compete for hiring teachers. Alamance County ranked 11th, as in 11th lowest out of the 13 for their per pupil funding. Here's the total amount of ABSS funding proposed in this recommended budget. It's $85.1 million. And this is a list of all of the lines that we're funding for them. So this does include debt service. This does include their capital projects. Current expense, which I remind you, counties are not required to fund. We are required to provide maintenance and facilities. Your fines and forfeitures is flat. And your current expense, as I said, is going up slightly. Switching over to our other partner, Alamance Community College. Current expense is staying flat for them in this recommended budget. Their capital outlay is slightly increasing, and their debt service is going down. I should have mentioned that the ABSS debt service is also going down as we're paying off and retiring debt. The current expense funding for ACC looks like 4.88 million, repair and maintenance funds, 6.4, the debt service, and then the capital projects. This is about $90,000 of an increase in their capital budget for next year. Oops, let me go back. All right, on the county department side, we have a reduction in the funding for personnel. I don't believe we have seen this before either, but about $512,000 less for funding county personnel next year than what you're funding in the current year. We have a small increase in operations and program. A lot of these increases were out of our control, like liability insurance, payments for medical examiners that the state passes on to us. We cannot say no to that. And detainee medical care. Those have been some of the drivers here for this $105,000 increase. And then capital outlay, it is going up next year, but we had some tricks up our sleeves to not use general fund funding for that, and I'll explain what that looks like. A couple of highlights I'll walk you through. Of course, you know the price of gas is causing some increases in our budget. We have 3 new buildings that'll be coming online in the upcoming fiscal year. They all lead to increased costs with utilities, day-to-day repairs and maintenance, and the occasional need of snow removal. We have reviewed and adjusted all of our fees. I appreciated that suggestion from our public. We look at those every year to make sure that they're competitive and that we are able to offset some of our costs by implementing those fees. We received 24 requests for new positions across county departments. There are only 3 recommended. One is a foreign language interpreter. This is offsetting what we were paying in contracted services. So this is actually a savings by funding the position and not having the contract in place anymore. There's an opioid settlement fund as a revenue source to support this substance abuse education specialist. And then we're using occupancy tax revenues to support a position in the TDA, the Tourism Development Authority. These are a few examples of some of the positions that we're not recommending. I wanted to point out the 4 telecommunicators that were requested in your 911 service came from your fire services. They were asking for some dedicated telecommunicators to handle fire calls. We do not have the funding to support this, so of course I could not fund that, but I told them that I would make you aware of their request. We have exceeded our caseload levels in environmental health, in DSS, in human resources. We are lacking funding to support enough, to be able to fund enough positions to help serve in these areas. Reductions from your current year. So we are required to maintain mandated services. You, in many cases, don't have the opportunity to reduce those. In the places that you do, we are making program cuts. We understand that that's unpopular. And many of you have asked me, how do we eliminate the need for a tax increase? It's either we go up on revenues or we cut our spending. You've seen this from me before. But I feel like this is where we go when we talk about where we can cut. And it's a lot to fit on a slide, so let me kind of tell you what you're looking at. The top third says mandated services and mandated funding. There are 6 things that you have no control over funding. In the middle third is mandated services that have discretionary funding. These are things like elections or your tax office or your sheriff's department. You have some say in the level in which you fund these services. And finally, the bottom third. This is where you have full discretion. You do not have to have these departments. You don't have to have these services. You have all the ability to figure out how you would like to fund those. We're eliminating a lot of positions, playing cleanup on the budget. So we have done zero-based budgeting since I arrived 3 years ago. This year, we did zero-based budgeting for everything, every position, every line item, every program. And we found that we were able to eliminate, I'm jumping around. I'm recommending for next year that we cut 9 positions that are currently vacant. That'll save you about $820,000. This is the bottom half of your slide. There's one from your clerk's office. There's one from the county manager's office. There's 2 in your IT department, 1 in detention, and 4 in emergency medical services. As we were going through some of these vacant positions, we needed to do some cleanup. They had been new positions created, and so we were cleaning up some of these. So that's where some of these are coming from. Others are just reducing the services. 41 positions have been eliminated throughout the fiscal year. I know many of you think we only look at the budget one time of year, but we spend the entire year asking ourselves, do we need to fill this position? Can we do business differently? How can we save money? And so 35 positions are coming from your sheriff's office next year. By not participating in the ICE program, we were able to eliminate those programs. And then we moved those employees that we had, we collapsed some of our vacant positions to fund those. So through consolidation of positions, there's 35 less people there. The health department had some cleanup of old position classifications and made some consolidations as well. 5 positions were netted there, and 1 in the fire marshal. Rather than bringing a full-time employee in, we replaced a full-time employee with non-permanent hourly. So we are looking at this throughout the year and trying to figure out how we can be more efficient and how we can spend less money. We also have program cuts. Some of these you've heard about already. We have eliminated the ICE program that the sheriff chose not to participate in. We have not back-funded refugee health. That was a program that we had federal money cut from, and we did not plug that with general fund. We have crisis support and weatherization in the Department of Social Services that we are not funding. We are looking at reducing operating hours. We have taken a look at our data for the library usage, and the usage of the library between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock is very low. So we are suggesting that we close libraries at 7 p.m. rather than 8 p.m. as a cost savings. And we also had a position in cooperative extension that was expanding our food and nutrition education. When the grant money went away, we were asked to step up to the plate and continue that, and I have said no to being able to do that. We are investing in our workforce. Team Alamance is 1,100 employees strong, and the board has made it a priority to continue to pay competitive wages to our employees. The cost of living adjustment is supposed to be based on the Consumer Price Index for the Southeast region. That's currently 3.6%. I am recommending a cost of living adjustment of 2% for employees next year. Merit pay has been how we have awarded our high performers within the organization. We've had many conversations about could we revamp this program. So I have recommended merit pay next year. That does revamp the program a bit. We used to have a first tier, a 1% achievement for folks, and we have cut that one out. We are funding merit pay at 2.5% for employees. They can either get a 2% or a 3%, but 3% is reserved for those that are exceeding expectations, and we don't have the funding in place for those. We know not everybody can achieve and exceeds. We have been making some great progress thanks to the board for committing to compensation studies. And next year, we're proposing to look at compression. This study is a lot less expensive than the ones that we've seen in the past because we've made great strides in keeping our salaries competitive. But I am proposing we keep up the momentum and fund a compression study next year. And finally, for the sheriff's office, we have wanted to consider implementing a separate pay plan for our sworn positions. And his staff did a wonderful job coming up with a pay plan that we could support that helped improve the competitiveness and moved our employees further along faster for sworn law enforcement positions that will result in no cost to the county. We spent a lot of time talking in our work session about outside agencies. They're a very small portion of this budget, but we do like to talk about them. Nonprofits that are funded through occupancy tax revenues will receive level funding next year. We did not reduce those if they're receiving the occupancy tax revenues. The airport also has level funding, and the rescue squad also has level funding. So no cuts there, but we were not able to accommodate their requests, which many of them were asking for more. You also have 4 volunteer fire departments that are asking for increases next year. The Board of Commissioners has the authority to yes or no vote on a tax increase for a volunteer fire department, and these 4 are asking for an increase. We can spend some time at your work session talking about those and what those will go to support. All right, I'm going to shift to capital improvement plan. As you know, our capital improvement plan funds projects for ABSS, for the Alamance Community College System, and for the county. We have combined all of these, so it's kind of a lot to digest, but we're happy to dive in at a work session to get a little more detailed. There's $8 million recommended for ABSS for facility improvements and $1.4 million for technology for equipment replacement. These are both flat with your current year spending. Alamance Community College had no request last year within the CIP, so there is new money. They're asking for we're recommending $585,000 for them, and this is fully coming out of your general fund. Same with ABSS, both of those are appropriated out of the general fund. And then on the county side, I said we did something creative. You had some capital reserve set aside money that you had designated for your courthouse expansion project. We took some of that last year to help fill in the gap for schools. And this year, we're taking the remaining balance, $7.3 million was left for that project, and we're using it to fund some much needed facility improvements, some technology, equipment and vehicles, and then the landfill improvements. You'll remember the landfill is an enterprise fund, so they have their own revenues that go to support their needs. So no general fund is being used for the county this year. We've got the courthouse funds. We also had some remaining ARPA interest that we're clearing out and some capital reserve that would go for that. Here's the ABSS capital improvement plan. You'll have this in your packet. It's a little bit hard to read, but I wanted to remind you that for fiscal year 26-27, that's the only year in which you're voting for funding. Although it's a 5-year plan, and you can see that we've created a funding plan that is stable and sustainable, not a lot of peaks and valleys. It does change year to year based on their needs, but you're only committing to the funding of 1 year at a time. So that's the red circle year. The total amount for capital then for ABSS is $9.4 million. Moving on to Alamance Community College, the total amount proposed for funding is $585,407. And then on the county side, $10 million there, none of that coming from your general fund for facilities, technology, vehicles, and equipment. We are continuing to need to do both of these things. Either find new revenue or continue to cut services. We need to do both. Same conversation that we've continued to have. This recommended budget does something new. It incorporates input from your community. It reduces spending, which we continue to do. It reduces positions. It stops using fund balance to fill the gap for recurring and ongoing costs. It does protect core services. It invests in the county workforce. It maintains the required amount of education funding. In fact, we based our recommendation on the statutory formula for current expense. And it plans responsibly for future needs. There have been a lot of hard choices to protect the financial health of Alamance County made in this budget. I am looking forward to working with all of you during this process of going from a recommended budget to an adopted budget and building a strong future together for Alamance County. What comes next? So you will have a budget public hearing scheduled for June 1st. It will be held at your historic courthouse, 6:30 p.m. On June 9th, we have our budget work session. We'll begin at 9:30 a.m. in this room. Between June 1 and June 9, if you could let me know what requests you have for additional information, what departments you would like to discuss, we can be sure to use your time wisely on June 9th. And finally, on June 15th, we have the adopted budget ordinances coming to you, hoping that we'll have reached a budget that the board is comfortable adopting at that point, and that'll be in here at 6:30 p.m. I've presented a lot of information, and there is a lot of information that goes along with this budget. All of it is accessible to the public, all of it. This is the web page for the county, and I've circled the $sign down there. This is where you can find everything about the 2026-27 budget. We've done a budget summary sheet this year and a media briefing document. We have the results of the community input survey there for everyone to see. This slide presentation will be there. The full budget book is available for everybody to click on every page of the budget document. And we also have a one-pager budget in brief, which is a summary sheet with some highlights that may be helpful for our residents. Thank you for the honor of being able to present a recommended budget to you all. This is not an easy task, and it takes a wonderful team. So if you'll indulge me a moment, I'd like to thank our budget team who have worked throughout the year to put this together. We have Rebecca, we have Brent, we have Anna, and we have Lauren who are here. Also, my management team, we're 3 strong now this year with Sherry and Brian and myself. And I have to give a shout out to an IT employee, Robert Andrews, who has been very patient as we have printed our budget document at the last minute. He has been very patient with us. So thank you to all of you for making this possible. It's very much a team effort, and I appreciate the opportunity to also work with this team as we work towards an adopted budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome.
County Attorney's report.
Nothing for me tonight, board. Thank you.
Okay, County Manager's report.
Yes, I have a short one. EMS Appreciation Week, I wanted to announce. Emergency Medical Services Week is being recognized the week of May 17th through 23rd. As you know, our EMS team works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. They are providing life-saving care to residents and visitors of Alamance County. The quality emergency care that is provided by our system dramatically improves the survival and the recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. I'm sorry I'm boring you. We would like to thank the members of Alamance County EMS for the meaningful difference that they have made in the lives of countless individuals. I know you'll join me in extending appreciation for those employees. And I think Josh Kylander is here or was here. So I just want to say thanks to his leadership. It's a very important service that we provide here in Alamance County. So thank you. I also need to give Brian a moment. He wanted to update you on strategic plan.
Yeah, sorry to extend this meeting, but I want to give you a short update on the strategic planning process. So you'll remember we probably last spoke about this at our winter work session, but we are hoping to update our strategic plan this year, in particular the pillar around smart development, which is inclusive of both our economic development strategy and our land use strategy. So I think the timing is good with some of the issues that we're seeing this year. So we are partnering with the Alamance Chamber to do that work. Over the next few months, you'll start getting information about sessions for the public and for elected officials to provide input into that plan. We would love to have your participation in that so that we end up with a plan that is something you guys are satisfied with and something that will guide us over the next several years. So I'll be sharing more information with you and with the public soon.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. I think Kylander just came in. He was in the overflow. Yeah.
That is Josh Kylander, our EMS director, and wanted to just say thank you for the job that him and his employees do each and every day.
Yeah, do a great job. Thank you. I'm gonna go first. I have brought up to Manager York that the county commissioners receive a salary for being a county commissioner. And so I want us to stop paying for commissioners' travel, hotel, and gas. Now, some courses we have to take, the ethics course, and usually the more of us that take that, the cheaper it is. And so a course that is, that we have to take, then the county can pay for that. But for us to go on trips and gas and food and hotel room, if we're asking everybody else to cut back, then I think we should certainly cut back also. And I did want to clarify something. My husband's parents were divorced, and this was 75 years ago. His dad became disabled, and he paid $5 a month child support. Now, that was 75 years ago, and from somebody that was disabled. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, that it wasn't just, a single mother. And he was very active in my husband's life as much as he could be. All right, Commissioner Thompson.
I would just like to say that last Wednesday night, about 9 o'clock, I had to call EMS for my mother, who lives a mile below the Eli Whitney Crossroads. And I had an ambulance and I guess a paramedic in a separate truck, whatever. The two chicks that were in the ambulance looked their big 15 years old. They were amazing, and they had my mother. So, but I cannot thank them enough for the job they did. And all the way to the hospital. Our hospital was amazing. Was in the emergency room all night long. You get to see reality. I kept seeing EMS come and go. I saw somebody doing CPR on a guy. I don't know if he made it or not. It's just something else. But anyway, to have these people for this county, we are so, so lucky. And they seem to be on the low totem pole when it comes to salaries, and we need to really pay them what they're worth, because they work a lot of overtime to make a living. And that's hard when you work overtime all the time. You can get burnout, but I saw nothing but excellence. And I'm doing a ride along with them this week. So but none of you have an emergency, and I should show up. So, but I'm just so proud of my county and my hospital and everything that we do. And it takes a lot to really make this county run, because the more we grow, the more we need. And we're to a point now where we got to really decide what we want Alamance County to be, because we're kind of chasing it, and that's not a good place to be. And I know that says our state is #1 in workforce, and we're at the bottom in education. And unless we are shipping people in from Mars to work here, I don't know how that's going to really pan out, because sooner or later that's going to really conflict. We want well-educated, well-centered, really good people in our workforce that really want to make North Carolina what I know it can be and is. And this tax property thing, I'm just going to say this. I don't want people that can't balance their own budget telling me how to balance ours. And that's just the way I feel about it. And that's just personal for me. We are elected, and we need to always do the right thing. And we can't play politics with people's lives. And this is going to be a big year for it. Federal, state, local, down the road, up the road, whatever. It's all that matters is you guys. And just let us know what we can do to make it better. And hopefully we will do that, because that's what we're supposed to do. So that's it. But big shout out to EMS. They are amazing.
Commissioner Powell.
Yeah, I'd like to just say that this has been perplexing to me as to how we got into the situation that we are in this year. Why is it that all of a sudden we've had years and years where every year there's this budget review process and everything, and we go along and we tend to increase the taxes collected year after year slightly to keep up with inflation. But what happened this year? Why are we so far behind? And I think that it's a combination of two things. One of them is that inflation has been unusually high from COVID and the federal government policies and all of that, and we've had to suffer through. So that's one issue. We have tried to maintain the services that we have without cutting out services. You might say, well, you can cut down some employees here and there, but that doesn't give you $1 million cuts. Okay, that'll do a little bit of a cut, but we have to deal with what we are providing in services, and there's things we need like EMS. We need some additional units. Okay. But I think the real reason that we're where we are now is that back in 2023, we did that revaluation, and we cut the tax 22 cents. Okay. We got behind at that point, and we haven't caught up yet. And I think that is the reason that we are in the position we find ourselves in this year. Next year, we have another revaluation. And I hope we remember that, and that we don't cut so far back that we get behind the 8 ball. We need a more uniform process to pay for what we have. And I think we need to try to avoid this roller coaster thing that we're doing right now, at least a little bit.
Commissioner Carter?
Well, I think Commissioner Powell hit the nail on the head with a couple of points there, and so did, so it's been also said earlier. The federal government and the state have both pushed down on us expenses we haven't had to handle before. You heard that presented tonight. Interestingly, my daughter teaches up in Kentucky. And if you think you're making low money in North Carolina, try out Kentucky. It shocked me what she makes up there. But their county has multiple funding sources that we don't have available to us. Their tax rate in a little county in the west side of the Blue Ridge on property is 10 cents. I haven't had the time. I wish I had the time to worry about how they get where they go, but hard enough time keeping track of Alamance County. But back in 2017, the school system came to us with a request for $300 million for new construction and improvements. The Board of Commissioners at that time, I wasn't on this board, pared it down to $150 million, 39 million for ACC. They've told us this year that the state's projections are 412 million. The needed additions to schools. And part of that is because DPI doesn't like mobile classroom space. Nobody does. The teachers that teach it don't like it. Nobody likes it. I don't see any way in the world we're going to throw away the mobile classroom space we bought and paid for. Not right now at all. But that's another issue. And several comments were made tonight about my vote in 2019. That was a unanimous vote, as I recall, because we didn't have any choice. The voters voted against the sales tax, 1/4 local option sales tax. We had to find a way to pay for the bonds we were ordered to borrow the funds for. I think if you didn't get anything else tonight, you got a sense of how much is going on in Alamance County and how much we're trying to keep track of and balance. Anybody who thinks it's easy, dead wrong. We don't always agree. Nobody wants to go out and raise taxes. Nobody wants to. Nobody on this board wants to raise taxes. I think, like I said earlier, I got a friend who makes $900 a month, lives in an $80,000 condo. I don't want to raise his taxes either. This is a tough budget. Probably the toughest budget I've seen in 8 years. It's not going to be fun for any of us. It's not going to be fun for anybody in this room, probably. But if you didn't get anything else, you got an idea of why it's going to be as hard as it is. I hope you paid attention, because everything on those charts was important.
Commissioner Freeland?
I got three points. The first thing that we're going to have a get down to the nitty gritty of all the different items. I think there's a number of things that weren't discussed here this evening, but we've got some time. Look forward to that. Second point is I like the outreach, the concept of the outreach that we did with the survey. Now, that said, got to say, we got to make sure that we're asking the right questions of the right people. As the manager pointed out, this was a selection process. I think most of those people had an agenda when they're coming in and, okay, bless them for stepping forward. That's a good thing. And to leave on a positive note, I made no qualms about I want no increase in taxes, but I do think that we've made some cuts in the right places. The personnel removal of the particular dormant line items is a good thing. So I'm going to give some kudos for that. But it's kind of two steps forward, one step forward, two steps back in terms of the overall budget that I'd like to see reduced to an even amount of no tax increase. But thanks for the effort.
Okay.
All done.
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you for watching the Alamance County Commissioners Meeting. Commissioner meetings typically occur on the first and third Monday of each month in the Commissioners Meeting Room in the County Office Building at 124 West Elm Street in Graham. The first Monday meeting begins at 9:30 a.m. and the third Monday meeting begins at 6:30 p.m. Changes to the meeting schedule will be posted on the county website at alamancecounty.nc.gov. This meeting will be broadcast on LocalGov TV. Please go to www.localgovtvnc.com for more information about their schedule and to see more videos produced by your local governments. You can also access this meeting through our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/Alamance County NC or by clicking the YouTube link on the county website. Technical questions regarding this broadcast or production may be sent to our county webmaster via email at webmaster@alamancecounty.nc.gov. This address is for technical questions only. Comments and questions about the content of this meeting may be made to the commissioners themselves. You can find their contact information at the Alamance County website at commissioners.alamancecounty.nc.gov. There, you can learn more about the commissioners' duties, read minutes and agendas of commissioner meetings, and find other information about the county commissioners. You can also send mail correspondence to County Commissioners, 124 West Elm Street, Graham, North Carolina, 27253. Again, thank you for watching the Alamance County Commissioners Meeting. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our latest video content. If you're watching on LocalGov TV, be sure to visit their website to see all of the content made for you by your local governments.